Before I dive into this absolutely insane story, let me say this: if you love wild WA drama, entitled neighbors getting exposed, and real-life stories where Karens try to control everything but end up destroying themselves instead, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around, because this one is beyond anything you've ever heard. It's got trespassing, cops, smart locks, screaming WA board members, and one very embarrassing 911 call that turned the tables in the most satisfying way possible. It all started the day I decided to finally upgrade the old rusted gate lock on my backyard pool fence with a modern smart lock, because unlike my neighbors, especially Karen, the WA board president who believes every blade of grass in the neighborhood belongs to her, I actually care about safety, and since I had a few nieces and nephews coming over more often, I wanted a lock that would let me remotely control access, get alerts if anyone opened the gate, and most importantly, prevent kids or strangers from wandering into the pool unsupervised. But apparently, according to Karen, my decision to use technology that she didn't personally approve was an egregious violation of the HOA guidelines, even though there's no actual rule anywhere in the covenant against changing a lock. So within hours of me installing it, I got the first passive-aggressive text from her. Residents must get board approval before altering community-facing hardware, which made zero sense because the pool and fence are on my private property, not WA common grounds. But of course she's convinced the whole neighborhood is her kingdom, and as if dealing with her wasn't bad enough, her grown son, who still lives with her in his 30s and seems to think he's the self-appointed WA enforcer, decided to take things to a level so absurd I still shake my head when I think about it, because instead of just gossiping at the board meeting or sending me another nastygram, he actually trespassed into my backyard, fiddled with my pool gate, and when the smart locks alarm went off, he had the audacity to call 911 and report me. Yes, me, for illegally securing a community access point, which is hilarious because again, it's my fence and my pool, and the police showed up genuinely confused why they were being dragged into what should have been a neighborly boundary issue. But of course Karen was standing there too, arms crossed, shrieking about bylaws and ruining neighborhood uniformity, while her son played the victim card saying he was just checking for compliance, except the cop noticed something right away. The gate clearly had no trespassing, private property, signs posted in bold letters, so if anything, it was Karen's son who had broken the law, not me. And when I calmly pulled out my phone and showed the officer the app that logged the attempted forced entry with a timestamp, complete with a snapshot from my security camera showing him reaching over the fence, the officer's tone shifted immediately, going from mildly annoyed at being called out for a property dispute to outright stern as he informed Karen's son that filing a false report and trespassing are criminal offenses, and suddenly Karen's shrill confidence faltered, but of course she didn't back down gracefully. Oh no, instead she doubled down and screeched that as WA president she had jurisdiction over my pool, which caused the officer to stifle a laugh because that's not how private property works, and at this point I could have let the whole thing slide with just a warning to her son. But here's where the twist begins. I decided to press charges, not out of spite, but because this wasn't the first time Karen and her son had harassed me. There was the time they complained about the color of my shutters approved by the WA years before I even bought the house, the time they tried to fine me for having improper holiday lights, when all I had was a small string of solar-powered lanterns, and even the time her son walked his dog through my yard claiming it was common grass, when it was very clearly my mowed lawn. So enough was enough, and pressing charges was the only way to draw a line in the sand. But of course once the legal process started, Karen went nuclear, sending out mass emails to the entire WA claiming I was a dangerous influence undermining community unity, and urging everyone to attend the next board meeting to address the security crisis, which honestly made me laugh because all I had done was put a smart lock on my fence, and when the meeting rolled around, I showed up with printouts of the HOA bylaws, photos of my property line from county records, and the police incident report, and when it was my turn to speak, I calmly laid out everything while Karen sputtered and her son sat red-faced in the corner. But here's where another twist came in. Turns out several other neighbors were fed up with her antics too, and my situation gave them the courage to speak out. One neighbor mentioned how Karen fined them for having unauthorized flowers in their yard. Another described how she tried to block a disabled resident from installing a ramp because it wasn't aesthetic. and yet another admitted she had been sneaking around taking photos of backyards for evidence. So suddenly the entire meeting shifted from Karen's planned ambush against me to a spontaneous rebellion against her reign of control, and within an hour, there was an emergency motion to remove her as president, which passed with a landslide vote, leaving her stunned and speechless for once in her life. But the chaos didn't stop there, because her son, in a last-ditch attempt to save face, threatened to sue me for defamation, to which I simply held up the security camera still of him trespassing and said, "Good luck with that," and the room erupted in laughter, and eventually the officer who handled the original call even testified that the 911 report was false, which resulted in a small but satisfying fine against him. But here's the ultimate cherry on top. Months later, after Karen was removed from the board, I upgraded not just the pool lock but my entire home system to smart security, and I guess Karen's son couldn't resist snooping again because one night he tried to peek over the fence and set off the floodlight cameras, which automatically sent me an alert and recorded everything, and this time when I handed it over to the police, they didn't even hesitate. They issued him a trespass warning that barred him from coming onto my property ever again, and with his mom no longer in power, he couldn't hide behind her wash shield, so now whenever I see them in passing, they both avoid eye contact while the rest of the neighborhood greets me with knowing smiles, because at the end of the day, the so-called dangerous influence was actually the one who restored peace and sanity to the block, and though it was stressful in the moment, I can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the whole ordeal, especially remembering the moment Karen's son thought calling 911 on me for installing a smart lock would make him a hero, when in reality, it just exposed them both for the petty, power-hungry bullies they really were. And to anyone out there dealing with an HOA tyrant or an entitled neighbor, let me tell you, document everything, stand your ground, and sometimes, just sometimes, the smart lock you install to protect your pool ends up unlocking the downfall of the neighborhood Karen herself.